Oh.
Okay, so just for those of you who are joining us perhaps for the first time, this is our third webinar in a series of 6. Those of us from Society for Range Management International Mountain Section, which is the collaboration, I guess, of Alberta and Montana, thought that it would be great to offer our members some webinars over the winter and into the early spring here, just highlighting some of the research that's happening out of the University of Alberta, so part of the Rangeland Research Institute, which I'm also a part of, so from University of Alberta, as well as those projects that are happening at Red Bluff Ranch at Montana State University, and that's really been hosted by Noah Davis. And so this is our third one. So thank you to those of you who've been joining us. I'm Lisa Rotz. I'm the program coordinator at the Rangeland Research Institute and also part of Society for Range Management International Mountain Section. So I wear a couple hats like lots of us do. And today I'm pleased to introduce Sydney Lopes, who's a master's student at the University of Alberta. So I'll just read his bio here quickly. Sydney grew up in Brazil, and he really enjoyed working on his uncle's ranch, particularly during those summer or during school holidays growing up. And he's currently a master's student under the supervision of Dr. Edward Berg and Dr. Cameron Carlisle at the University of Alberta. And he's studying beef cattle habitat preferences using some new agricultural technologies. Sydney joined us this past summer, so he's relatively new. So he's going to be giving us some information about his research project specifically at Kinsella. And just by way of some etiquette, this is running as a Zoom meeting, not so much as a webinar. So just most of us already know, keep yourself on mute during the presentation, and then I'll take some questions at the end. You can use the emoticons to put a hand up, and I'll moderate the questions for Sydney, or if you want to put a question into the chat, I'll read those for him and he can answer the questions at the very end. So we just ask that you hold your questions to the end. Thank you so much, Sydney, for agreeing to do this talk today, and I will let you take it away from here. Thanks again.
So thank you so much, Lisa, for the intro. So today we're going to talk about the habitat selection by a commercial beef cattle grazing heterogeneous Aspen Parkland rangeland. So I'm not presenting here the selection data, but instead I'm more characterizing the habitats only with the long-term goal of assessing the selection. So at the University of Alberta, we have this ambitious project called Precision Ranching that aims to produce a profitable and environmentally sustainable beef production, balancing forage use in time and space by ensuring the right animal is in the right place at the right time. So that's our goal. So this slide is just a quick summary of what I'm going to cover during this presentation. So first, I will present the general problem, the research objectives, the habitat selection, the study area of and animals, and the data collection, the technology, and the next steps for our research. So on open rangeland, cattle faced complex decisions while foraged. This includes the habitats they are likely to select, which may vary from open habitats like the grasslands that are highly accessible to a relatively close woodlands habitats where the forage is less accessible. So also there is this difference in forage opportunities like the forage quality and the forage quantity and the availability of water and the provision to offer those benefits to the animals like shade in the hot weather or the protection during the storms. Here's the Aspen Parkland region. That's where our study is happening. So the Aspen Parkland is a very large area of transitional biome between the prairies and the boreal forest. It starts in Alberta, crossing the border into the British Columbia, and it stretches to the central Alberta, the central Saskatchewan, and the south area of Manitoba. And it continues in small parts of the US, states of Manitoba and North Dakota. So this is the largest boreal grassland transition zone in the world, and is a zone of constant competition and tensions as prairie and woodlands struggle to overtake each other within the parkland. So how we can take advantage of that? How we can produce, get the best for the animals and also protecting this biome. That's part of our goal. So my specific research objectives are identify that the habitats that are preferred and avoided by cattle within the heterogeneous Aspen Parkland rangeland under free range grazing, and to classify. The second one is to classify specific habitats aspects associated with the cattle use at the landscape due to difference in forage opportunities, like the forage quantity and quality, the accessibility, the abundance of the shrubs and trees, and the environmental attributes like the topography, the distance to water, and the provision. Here is important to clarify something because we already know things about those habitats. So Wheeler in 1976, he already documented the habitats in Kinsella. That's not novel in my project. We also know that Lee Arthur in 1984, he already looked for the preference for those habitats. However, he didn't have the cool technologies that I'm going to present soon, but he was sitting in a top hill, just observing the cows with a clipboard, writing what he was seeing. So Arthur, he was just using the visual observations to determine the preference and avoidance of the habitats that I'm going to describe here today. But they used a different grazing treatments. That time it was more rotational and continuous grazing. And Lee Arthur did not look for summer and fall to fall. He just had a small window of period time. And he did not have the cool technologies that I'm going to present right now. And that leads to my third objective, that is comparing the three technologies to three different technologies. So the low-tech wireless GPS collars, the GPS AS, and the series tags for their ability to track cattle geolocations during the summer from July to August and fall September to October during the grazing periods. And here we are not just comparing those technologies for fun, but our group has been using like the low tech for a decade or more. But the thing is, the equipment is quite expensive. So also we are trying to find technologies that will attend this necessity of tracking the cattle geolocations. That's why we are testing those two other alternatives technologies, the GPS and the series tags. And the fourth is relate the cattle preference for habitats to cattle cow-calf production metrics during summer and fall. So what is different from what I'm studying right now? So now we have this high resolution LiDAR in imagery that we are using drones to collect and prepare those detailed habitat maps to characterize the habitat quality associating with the cattle production metrics, like the cow-calf weight gain, the cow dietary composition, the residual feeding take. So that's very novel. And what is a habitat? So habitat basically is the land that you buy and you put your cow in. So including the biotic factors like animal, the food that you are offering, the animal interactions. Cattle is very gregarious. This is a picture that I took from the last fall, and the microorganisms. And there is also the abiotic factors like the climate, the topography, and the soil. Also, we need to pay attention for the basic components of the habitats. What are the requirements for the animal in that habitat? So they need water, feed, space, and cover. Those are the requirements. And how do cattle learn? That's a really interesting question. But, well, they start learning in the beginning. So before birth, the young animals, they have the experience of flavors of their mother's diet in their womb. And they have this inborn picture of what is an appropriate habitat. As after birth, so they have the social models. So cow is the first social model. So the calf just start watching his mom and following her, eating what she eats and doing what she does. And after, while they are growing, they start having more. They start having more influence from the peers. So peers have a great influence in their lives because they know where is the hazards and the resource of the new environments. Also, they learn where to go. So cattle, they have this ability to identify and remember appropriate habitats. And it is called habitat selection preparedness based on their physical and physiological attributes. So they also learn from try and error. So behavior depends on consequences. So if the consequences are positive, such as security, relaxation, thermal comfort, satiety, they will have preference for those habitats. So they will look for habitats with the same attributes. However, if the consequences are negative, like fear, pain, if they are feeling hunger or will or ill, they will avoid those habitats. They will create this aversion. And so here I have, do diet preference affect habitat selections? For sure, yes. The diet will affect the habitat. So here's Stamp in 1987. He created these multiple spatial scales. In my study, I'm just focusing more in the landscape and the plant community. So, but there are other people in my group that are just focusing in plants, like Valentine. He's doing the fecal barcoding, so he's really interested in plants, how cattle select those plants. But basically, I just would like to make an analogy over here because cattle like us, they have those preferences. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you can go to a restaurant maybe because you really like the ambience of that restaurant. You like the music, your friends are in there, it's close to your workplace, or maybe you like something from their menu. You really like the burger and the drink because that combo is really good, or maybe you just like one of their items. It's just a French fries because it's crunchy, you really like. So the same thing happened with cattle. They are very selective, and that's where we're gonna try to figure it out how they use the landscape based on that selectivity. So now let's talk about my study area. So this study is conducted at the Berg Kinsella Range at the University of Alberta Research Station. It is located 150 kilometer southeast of Edmonton, Alberta, and is within the Aspen Parkland natural subregion. Well, the topography is of rolling hills. That is a temperate continental climate. The annual precipitation is an average of 440 millimeters. The soil types are the black chernozem, but also we can find the dark gray chernozem and the alluviated black chernozems. So these are the pastures of my study. So summer east side and the fall, the west side. We have a native rangeland. The study started in 2021. I wasn't here, but in 2022, I started as a summer student. And these are the periods for the summer and fall grazing. So summer was from June 24 to September 6th, and the fall, September 7th to November 10th. And annually on those pastures, we had like heifers, an average of 20, the cow-calf pair, 40, the bulls, usually 2, and they are the Kinsella composite KC cattle crossbred. So those cattle that I'm showing the pictures, yeah, those are the herds, our herd. So let's talk about the vegetation types that was described by Wheeler in 1976. So here we have the wetlands, or called meadows. Those are mesic to hygric habitats occupied by grass and grass-like species, most carex and juncus. The vegetation will vary depending on the water table, if it is the whole year or just for some weeks. And the two major types of the riparian meadows are the saline riparian meadows. They're dominated by the vegetated saltgrass. These area are like salt bakelets, and they are associated with the groundwater discharge. We also have the fresh riparian meadows. They are dominated by aquatic sedges. These meadows occur at slightly graded elevation and is considered groundwater recharge. On the right side, we have the grasslands. It is a region where historically was maintained by fire and also the grazing by the ungulates. And the two major upland grasslands that we have at Kinsella are the plain fescue, the west porcupine, and also those also mix with the naturalized species of Rome and Kentucky bluegrass. And also we have in the Syrinx areas like the western porcupine and west grass. Both areas we have a naturalized species, they are very common. For the third vegetation type, we have the shrublands. The upland shrublands are in ecotone between the grasslands and forest. So the two major types that we are going to find in the pastures are the western snowberry and the silverberry. Both of them, they can result in a dense patches because of their ability to reproduce and for their strong roots. And also we have the aspen forests. This is a lot of variation in the aspen in our studies. So there are the closed canopy and the open canopy. So basically the high density of young aspen will form the closed canopy and the old aspen, the open canopy. So this is the picture that I took last summer showing the silverberry, the ecotone, but also in the right side, you can see the aspen forest, and behind, sorry, you can see the upland grassland. Well, so the habitat characterization, we're using the LiDAR data. And the LiDAR data, along with the multispectral, was collected in the year 2021. First, we are trying to create the habitat maps. Sorry, something here went wrong. Yeah, we are creating the habitat maps with the habitat attributes, showing the trees, the shrubs, and the cover and the density, and overlaying the cattle locational data. And the third thing that we are going to do is the model resource selection functions. So I already mentioned it on my objectives, but that's the novel part of my study is the degree of resolution. So animals and vegetation, the remote sensor that we are using to generate the new data layer. I will be able to characterize or to categorize where those animals are in the higher resolution, not just in the grass, but in another kinds of metrics as well. So we are going way beyond of the resolution that we have from those areas so far. So what about the forage quality and quantity? So we are using the GPS Garmin, the handheld navigator, was used in 2022 for the field, like to locate the plots. The biomass was sampled using the 50 by 50 centimeters mesoplot, divided into grass, forbs, and shrubs, just to see the current growth and the twigs and leaves. And the cover was assessed using the 2 by 2 nested mesoplot. So we got the biomass sample, it was dried, weighted, and we ground using the wheel mill in preparation for the proximate analysis, the chemistry, like the protein and the fiber. So here I have a result from last year from the standing forage biomass. What I would just say is we can see this is from July and August, and we can see the four habitats that we have from shrubland, aspen forest, grassland, and wetland. And we can see that the biomass decreased considerably in the habitats from July to August. So the grassland had the main reduction of 56%, followed by the wetland 45%. It is important to emphasize that here we have the grazing in action. So we have this interference. And for the aspen forest, it was the habitat that was more stable. And in the understory of the plants, we have the shrubs. So for the aspen forest, we see a reduction of shrubs in 60%. And it was quite interesting because the understory of the forest is different from the shrubland and the other habitats. So here we have more Saskatoon, chokecherry, raspberry, and wild rose. So we can see this difference of palatability, and maybe that's the reason for the 60% of reduction. Here we have the forage nutritive values. This is the data from August 2022, sorry. And there was the difference between the graminoids. I just want to show the protein and the MDF, the nutrient detergent fiber results. Those are just for August. And I just want to point that they were significant different from grass and grasslides, where wetland had the highest protein content and the shrublands the highest NDF percentage. Well, those are our technologies. In this picture, you can see Dr. Berg. He's the man. He's my advisor. In front of him, in the first row on your left side, you can see the GPS solar tags. We use 53 of them. On your front right side, you can see the series tags, those white ones with the applicator in the right, very right side. And in the behind, those are the low tech colors. We used 40 of them last year. And Dr. Bork is wearing one of them. So let's start talking about those technologies because, as I said, going back to my objectives, I'm testing those technologies for the ability to track the animal in summer and fall. So this is the Lowtech, is a Canadian company. I'm holding the collar on my hand in this picture, and this is the animal unit component, the collar. So it is composed by the CPU, is like the computer, the GPS board. It will select the best combination of visible satellites. The color framework, it will be the receiver. I will show in the next slide, but that's gonna receive the information and store it. We have some sensors like the temperature sensor, the activity sensor, and there is the dual axis motion. So this activity sensor will be very important in my study because we can see when the animal has his head up or down or moving one side to the other, and then we'll facilitate to understand his behavior. Is the cow just walking or laying down or grazing? So it will be very interesting. And also the mortality sensor. For this technology, we cannot see in real time. So we need to use the VHF beacon. That's the way that we can manual track the colored animals for the feedback, if it is working or not, because we don't want to get in the end of the season not knowing if the color is working or not. So every 2 weeks, I was in the field just making sure that they were working. Each color has its own frequency. So with the radio, I could see if they were working. And there are also battery. The battery is a lithium battery pack. It is the heaviest part. So that color weighs 1 kilogram. And most of the weight is just the battery. And also it has this belt. So here, as I told you, we use 40 colors. 20 of them were the GPS 3300 and 20 of them were the low-tech light track. They're almost the same. The difference is because the light track, the second one, the battery is lighter and you don't need to take from the lower housing. You can just charge with the cable. But here's how the communication happens. So the caller sends the location to the satellite send it back to the caller, and to retrieve the data, you need a computer. So in that picture, on your right side, you can see that you need to use a cable in your upper housing, like to get this data. But the advantage is the GPS 300 host software is very friendly, graphical, and they use an interface. So it's pretty easy like to see the data. Here is the series tags. The series tags is an Australian company. It's already in the market. It's easy. It's pretty easy like to buy because they are shipped to your door. They have this solar powered battery. So when you buy, it doesn't come fully charged. It's just 30%. So you need to charge it like around 5 to 7 days, just living outside for direct sunlight. But then you can just tag and go. So there is no additional infrastructure or maintenance for those battery replacement. And of course, you're going to need the applicator. So the picture on the left is the applicator. The applicator will activate the tag. And also in that green box, there is a fob. So if the applicator doesn't work for some reason, you can also use the fob to activate the tags. So the communication happens is this, the way that it happens, the tag communicates with the satellite, and the satellite sends the information to the series tags or the third-party Mappepedia. And that's why I would like to talk about the third party. Oh, I don't have Mappepedia here. It was it was gone, but there are some partners, the third parties. It could be Mappepedia, Cybolabs, or AgLive. And it's pretty easy to use Mappepedia. They have really cool options. You can check for the tag health. You can create geofences to make sure that your animals are in the area that you want. And if they leave for some reason, you start getting notifications on your phone or by email. You just need to sign up for that. And you can also arrange your animals in a group, and it's pretty easy to download it. So our third technology is the GPS solar tags. The GPS solar tags are from Norway. The GPS, they are stored in a buffer. They can store up to 250,000 locations per tag. That's pretty impressive. And for those, you're gonna need the external receiver. And in last year, we used 53 of them. But basically, the communication happens, the tag send the ping point or the location to the receiver will get this location and send to the satellite. And the satellite will send to the GPS company and the U-track. And so for this kind of technology, you are going to need a cell phone network as well. So this is their platform. They use a U-track. They are still working on their platform. There is no many options as the Mappepedia have, but you can just click on tag and go to menus and download your data and get a Microsoft Excel file with the cattle location, or the data can be extracted and sent to the primary email contact for the project. So the company, they will send the emails with the data collection that they have. So let's talk about the benefits and limitations of those technologies. So for the cost, so low tech it's a great collar, but it's expensive. Each collar costs around $2,000 Canadian dollars. For the series tags, it's $365 each tag, and for the GPS tag, $375. Are they programmable? Yes, low tech is programmable. You can create your own schedule. For example, in our case, we are collecting 60 locations per day. That's really nice to us because it can from the bulk period, the bulk feeding period time from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. and from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. that the period that the cattle are eating the most, we are getting 15 minutes of interval and every other hour. For the series tags, it's not programmable. It's 4 to 5 fixes per day. And for the GPS tags, it's programmable as well. It's that reusable. The technologies are reusable. For low tech, yes, you can use as much as you just need to take the color in the end of the season and use the next year. For the series tags, no. The older version, that is the version that they had, no. But for the new version, they are launching the range version. That one you can reuse. That's not our case. And the GPS tags, they are also reusable. For the location, you can get 6 plus location per day, almost 300 if you want. For the series, is just 2 to 5, especially because Series Tags is an Australian company. So most of their satellite constellation are in the south hemisphere of the globe. So here in Canada, we are observing just 2 to 3 locations per day. And the GPS tags is variable, but now we are asking for 24 locations. For the sensor data, so for the low tech, it's really good, the sensor data we have. For the other technologies, we don't have. For the software, for the GPS, we have the GPS 3000. You don't have like the real-time access to your data. You're gonna need a computer and check just in the end of the season. For the series tags, you need to pay a third party. That's a fee that you need to pay, but through Mappepedia, you have that access every time that you need. And for the GPS tags, you are going to receive the Excel file and you can check to U-track it. It's pretty good that you track, but it's not as in real time as the series, the Mappepedia one. And for the winter use, that's a very interesting thing for our research, because here where we have this short leyland and also the cold temperatures, we want to make sure that our technologies are working through the winter. Low tech works very well, series doesn't work, and for the GPS tags, it's kind of unclear. So that's just a summary of the benefits and the limitations of our technology so far. And what is the plans for 2023? So after we're going to quantify the selection patterns of cattle within the complex forage environments containing the multiple habitats through the QGIS that I'm doing right now. It is a tool that I'm learning. So because of that, we can see the patterns from summer and also through fall, because summer is the optimal foraging conditions and fall is the declining foraging quality. So what is the applications of those technologies? So we are going to understand the inherent behavior adaptations of the cattle to the Western Canadian grazing lands. We will develop selection tools to allow beef producers to screen their cattle to better align their behavior activity and forage use with the inherited outcomes. And in the end, is the exploring alternatives technologies to improve beef production efficiency, either using the genomic selection, a non-invasive way, or a low-cost tools such as virtual fence. So basically, this is what I'm doing right now. I just would like to thank our supporters and also the people that are helping us, the research technicians, during this project. So thank you so much for your attention today.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much, Sydney, for giving us a snapshot of what your research is. Does anyone have any questions? And again, feel free to either put something in the chat or raise your hand, and I'll call on you to unmute and ask Sydney a question. I guess I have a question, Sydney. Do you see ranchers being interested in taking advantage of things like the series tags or the GPS tags to track their cattle, and how would that be useful? Or
Absolutely, yes, Lisa, because especially the series right now, they are launching the range that are reusable tags. Well, it depends if the rancher they want to have in the winter, right? Because the winter here we see that series is not working. So I would say that the GPS color tags would work better. We are still, it's unclear, but it's kind of hard of the season. So it depends. It depends of the purpose. If it is summer, fall, I would say yes, but for the winter, it's kind of challenging.
And we have Keith asking if you could put up your final reference screen just a little longer.
Okay, yes.
Your final slide.
Yes.
Lisa, I have a question, but I don't know how to raise my hand. Can I ask?
Oh, no worries. Yeah, go ahead. No, I think we're actually a small enough group if you just want to unmute. Go ahead, Noah.
Thanks for the presentation, Sydney. Are either of the tags that you're using equipped with accelerometers, or is that something you can add to them? And if not, how are you going to distinguish grazing versus non-grazing locations, such as you can do with the low-tech collars fairly straightforwardly?
Thank you, Noah, for your question. Yes, so the series tags and the GPS tags, they have accelerometers. We just had a meeting in January to understand how those accelerometers, because for now we just have a range, how can I say, a range of these accelerometers. The numbers go from 1 to 6, and we were trying to understand what that means. And basically, yeah, it will be quite of a challenge for us to understand how we're gonna use those for the new technologies as we use for the sensor data from the low tech to distinguish. I didn't figure it out. It's just 6 months that I started the master program. But yeah, I hope that this summer or when I start taking the GIS class, I will have more understanding of linking
Yeah,
those.
if I can add to that, that's been something we've been grappling with all of these technologies, because a lot of them have accelerometers, but the information you get from the company is very limited. So they tend to create these indices. And we found this with the no fence as well, with that Alex Harlan talked about a month or so ago with that particular technology. You always get this, so some activity measure, and we even have that with our pedometers, but trying to figure out what it means, the devil is in the details. So I think the assumption is from a lot of these technology providers that producers will want some kind of simplified aggregate index, but as scientists, we really want the detailed data to understand what does that mean. So in the short term, we'll probably be using the number that they give us to try to figure out whether there's any biological meaning to it. In the negotiations we've had with a lot of these companies, they're very reluctant to share the guts of the calculation that they use to derive the accelerometer activity indices, which is a bit of a problem and a bit of a challenge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. Are you guys observing the cattle and making, I guess, observation data while the collars and tags are on, so you can go build a model and try to figure that out?
I'll let you answer that, Sydney. Go ahead.
Sorry, Noah, can you repeat the question? I just.
Are you, while the tags and collars are on your livestock, are you going out into the field and making written observations of what the livestock are doing, so you can go back and correlate that to the data you're getting off these devices to try to figure out what these indices mean?
Okay, no, we are not doing that in 2022, but that's a good question. And it's something that we can do for 2023 for sure. Like to relate those, yeah. But
Any other questions for Sydney? Well, we don't have to take the full hour. Certainly everyone is busy, especially on a beautiful Friday. It's certainly nice and sunny here in Edmonton. So thank you very much, Sydney, for presenting today. And for those of you who've been following our International Mountain Section webinar series, our next one is March 22nd. That's a Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. And Dr. Lisa Rue will be talking about invasive species management. So you're welcome to join us for that. And we will be recording again and posting these webinars on our website. So yes, thanks, Sydney, for joining us. Thanks, everybody.
thank you.